Good evening and welcome to the Finance Commission meeting for Thursday, October 16th. We are in Town Hall. They have Alan Slater, Ann Haley, and Eric Fleming, Finance Commissioners at the table. Ms. Bodenhofer, Maya Bodenhofer will be joining us remotely later. We have a pretty packed agenda tonight, so I'd like to get moving on it. Our first up on the agenda is our meeting minutes for approval.
Motion approved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Is Maev in here? Maev, are you in here? No. Okay, so I don't need to take a roll call at this point, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous, thank you. First up on our agenda tonight is the Town of Norwood's moderator. Madam Moderator, thank you for joining us. You had requested to join us to discuss some items, that an item for a town meeting, so thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, and I will keep this very brief. I know you have a packed agenda, and you only gave me 2 minutes, so.
I gave you 5.
You gave me 5.
I'm timing you.
So, for this November 13th town meeting, we are going to try to actually utilize the consent agenda process that was recommended by the Town Meeting Rules Committee of 2019 and subsequently approved in our town meeting bylaws under the rules. This requires a couple of things. The reason we're doing it is it's just another way to create some efficiency with town meeting. Kind of like electronic voting, to have it move along a little quicker so we can spend, town meeting can spend the majority of their time talking about, in this case, large dollar amount articles, and kind of move some of the more administrative type articles quickly along and do them through a consent agenda. As part of the consent agenda, per our rules, per the moderator's discretion, we need to consult with the Board of Selectmen and the FinCom. Not necessarily both. In this case, I would say it would probably just be the FinCom because they're money articles that we're going to propose to consent agenda, but the town manager and I met. We thought it would be a good idea off the bat to go to both boards. So Mr. Rizzuto did bring this to the Board of Selectmen as part of their warrant and yellow sheet approval of Tuesday night. And now I am bringing this to the FinCom. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because I know you're voting on the warrant later, but it is the first 3 articles that we're proposing for the consent agenda. The first one having to do with workman's compensation, to bring that to a sufficient level. Town manager and I feel that's pretty much something that we have to do, so town meeting probably will agree with that and not really want to debate it much. The second article is about putting the excess funds from the health insurance budget per the financial policy into the OPEC fund. And again, that one is just abiding by our financial policy, so it is, again, administrative in nature. And then the third one, which we're being asked to do by the Department of Revenue, is about covering a $3,800 roughly dollar shortfall to an MWRA loan. This is actually, and you can see it there, it's Article 3. It was approved by special town meeting in 2018. There is a slight shortfall or deficit in for that loan, and the $3,800 is needed to cover the deficit and to close out the account. So that money is going to be taken by from the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund, by the way. So those 3 articles are being proposed for the consent agenda, and this is not something you have to vote on, but if there are any comments or any strong feelings that the FinCom feels that shouldn't be part of the consent agenda, looking for your feedback.
I find the articles that you have suggested for this is very appropriate. Thank you. If
Just,
it wasn't very appropriate, I'd be screaming.
just one quick question, I think probably to Jeff, is on Article 3, I assume that's something that we are required to do.
Yeah, it's just, again, it's from 2020. It looks like just some expenses got overbooked to the account. Probably
Yeah.
should have been cleaned up at the point, but
Yeah.
because it's been reported on our balance sheet every year, DOR has said the only way you can do it is go to town meeting, appropriate the retained earnings, and clean it up.
Okay, so this is a DOR requirement?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Normally, we would just rebook some expenses somehow, as long as the year wasn't closed. That wasn't caught in
Right.
prior years, so now it's time to clean it up.
Okay.
Town meeting approval is just a formality, essentially.
Yep.
Yep.
And the same thing for Article 2, because that's part of our policy, if we have any
Right.
funds left over.
Same thing, and yeah, that's, again, DOR has recommended because you're putting in money into a stabilization fund, they'd like to see a town meeting vote.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
time.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you coming. Okay. The second item on the agenda is a school committee appearance to talk regarding their town meeting warrant articles. So Sean Mannion is with us in the room. Teresa Stewart and Anne Marie Mazzola are joining us remotely. So thank you for joining us tonight. I know that you sent along information, and I appreciate getting this information in advance, information on circuit breaker and on special education reserve. Your request is, I believe, to add $500,000 to the special education reserve fund? Is that correct?
Reserve fund, yes.
Reserve fund. So.
Deborah, could we just scroll to that article? Just so we have the one we're talking about on the screen.
And what article is it?
Five.
Thank you.
Right there.
Okay, good.
So I guess what I would like to, are there any questions from the Finance Commission first, or does the school committee have any comments that they would like? Or the Sean Mannion, the Director, Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Operations, do you have anything you would like to say?
I can just give the highlights of the memo, and I apologize, it was referenced as special education stabilization, but technically the term is special education reserve fund here in Norwood. So, per your request, we provided 2 tables, and it gives some history about circuit breaker, just in case anybody needs the context for like how the circuit breaker works. It's a state reimbursement for the high cost of special education placement. You can see a history from FY25 through the FY26 on the circuit breaker, and by law you can carry forward the balance for up to 1 year. So you can see the final balance at the end of one fiscal year becomes the carry forward in the next fiscal year. And then when you add the carry forward in the current year reimbursement, that gives you the total funds available in any given year. The reimbursement itself, which is the second column, the current year reimbursement, you can see that it's been on an increasing trend. So back in FY29, we were at about 2.25 million, and now even in this current year, it's at 5.3 million. And you can also see that the balance that we've been carrying forward has been on an increasing trend as well. So in recent years, we've carried forward 3 million, close to 3 million in FY24 and FY25. And that's very typical for school districts to carry forward the circuit breaker. You can carry forward up to the full year's amount in the circuit breaker fund.
How many?
Up to 1 year's amount, so.
I thought you just said 4.
No, up to 1 year can be carried forward. Happy to answer questions about that. We looked at the Special Education Reserve Fund, sorry, it's called stabilization. It was created by a town meeting vote in FY21. In the first 2 years, 21 and 22, the school district had surplus at the end of the year that the school district added, which added $850,000. And then this last spring, the town voted to add $300,000. So total that put into the account is $1,150,000 over the lifetime. And it's only been spent once, which was in FY23. $150,000 was spent on special education costs. So those costs were transferred to the SPED reserve fund. And so right now we have a balance of $1 million. I will say that when I got here last year, the FY25 and the FY26 budget were both, the school department budgets were built with a dependency on using some of this special education stabilization fund. So we sort of got this ongoing built-in budget dependency of $550,000, but recently the superintendent and I have been looking at our Q1 projection, and our plan is to sort of shift that 550. We may come forward with a recommendation to the school committee over to circuit breaker, since circuit breaker is doing well. What that will do is it will keep the SPED reserve fund as a true reserve fund. And our future budgets will not be dependent on using that just to balance the budget. So our goal is to really keep this fund as a true reserve for some future unforeseen thing, and our goal is to sort of build it up to the maximum amount that we can and then keep it there as a true sort of reserve fund.
So just to clarify, the circuit breaker money you basically have to use in the following year, because otherwise you lose it, right?
Yeah, well, you get your new money, and you can use, you get your current year money, and then that can carry forward for up to 1 year after you get it. So
Right.
so you can have up to 2 years to use, but you can only carry forward 1
Right.
year.
But it's not a good place. Like I said, it doesn't function as a reserve fund because you've got this
You have a
time
limit.
frame to use it on that's fairly short term.
Yeah.
And it's gotta be gone, so.
You have a limit on its use, although I will say some school districts, again, sort of like with the SPED reserve, they're building their next year's budget on both the next year's circuit breaker and the prior years. And it's like using one-time funds to balance your budget. Here, we're in a good situation where we have a little bit of built-up reserve in the circuit breaker, which is good. And that's why we'd like to use a little bit more of our circuit breaker, since the carry forward balances have been good, and not use the special education reserve fund. So stop that practice of building that into the budget.
So you'd be using the special education reserve fund for what it's truly intended, not as, I mean, that's not strong fiscal practice to use it as a buffer. You're only supposed to use this in cases of emergency.
Exactly.
Correct, that's what the
Exactly.
reserve fund is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed, Sean, is that in the carry forward of your circuit breaker, even though it's increasing every year, it's not necessarily keeping pace with the expenses.
Mhm. The last several years, I've seen a huge increase in special education.
Yeah.
Especially FY '24, when
Yeah.
the OSD rate went up like 14% on tuition.
Yeah.
We did get there is some built in here, what they call circuit breaker extraordinary
Yeah.
relief. So if your costs go up by more than 25% to the prior year, you can
Yeah.
apply for extraordinary relief, and Norwood got that in a couple of years, but not
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah, but I think the point is that in some of the prior years, is not one-to-one, but it's pretty close to what you'd carry forward in circuit breaker to what you get for reimbursement. Now, there's a large delta.
Right.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any questions?
I know, Teresa.
Teresa or Anne Marie, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Not necessarily anything to add, Sarah. I just didn't know if any of you wanted additional information. I mean, I feel like we have talked a lot with you over the years about circuit breaker and the reserve fund and just special education in general. But is there questions that you have for the school committee that you'd like Anne Marie and I to answer, or any, reassurance that you'd like from us?
Well, I'm just gonna say that I am happy with the move to treat this as a true reserve account. I don't like the idea of buffering the budget with this. I think this is, particularly with the request of adding an additional 500,000, that should be put there for the extraordinary circumstances that may happen. So I'm happy that Sean and Tim are making that decision, making that recommendation or working with you to do that. So I'm that makes me feel better about your request right now. So Maya Bodenhofer has joined us. Maya, you have a question? You're muted still.
Thank you. Sorry for my delay. I was having some technical difficulties. I've moved to a new office and it was complicated. But one thing is, I just want to remind everyone that in order for funds to be removed from the Special Education Reserve Fund, it requires a vote of both the school committee and the Board of Selectmen. So if if the intent of town meeting was to put money in this and keep it truly as a reserve account, for an emergency use, and not make it part of the regular budget, then, not only would the school committee, I'm sure, listen to the request of town meeting, but I think the selectmen would also be another kind of layer of protection.
So there is a check and balance, so I think that's,
Yeah,
that's a
absolutely.
good point.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just have a question for
Eric.
Jeff on this.
Eric has a question.
Yeah, does this fund earn interest?
The way that was set up, it does not.
It does not, okay.
Is there a way to set it up or reset it up to earn interest, or is that not typical of reserve accounts?
No, this one typically you would set up it would be a separate fund that would earn interest, but that's not the way the article was written and the motion was made.
Okay.
So we have to ask to change?
Correct. I would recommend that, yes.
Okay, so we can maybe do that
Springtime?
the next town meeting?
Springtown meeting?
Sure.
Yep. Okay, good.
Did you note that, Deborah? Was it for Springtown meeting, interest bearing account? Thank you. All right, does anybody have any further questions? We'll just,
So,
Jeff?
just in the event, just something to think about, Sean, I don't know the answer to this, but if you do set it up as an interest earning account, what happens if you go over the 2%?
That's kind of where I was going.
Good point. Yeah, maybe,
Again, we probably won't because your budget's gonna go up more than the interest rate and then the
Right.
interest, but just in case. What
Right.
happens if you were over 2%? What do we do?
I guess it would come down to the town's auditors, recommending that the count has gone higher than it's allowable, and that we would probably need to move some money back into free cash or something. I
Yeah, like I
defer
said,
to you on that.
if the expectations, budgets are going up, say 4%, that number's gonna, then we'll never get to that point with interest, so I think we'll be okay, but I just wanted to
Right.
make
It's a
sure.
good point to
Yeah.
double
Yeah.
check, okay.
That's a good point.
You can always slightly underfund it. If you allowed 1.58, you only do 1.5, and that gives you a bit of buffer for interest, so.
Yeah, the amount we had from the spring was based on the '24 final net school spending, and every year, because the budget goes up, it increases, so we won't have the FY '25 net school spending till soon, till a little later. So I think if you're always working 1 year sort of behind like that, that's probably another check and balance on it not going over.
All right. Well, we're gonna vote on these later, but we appreciate your time tonight. Thank you for joining us, Teresa and Anne Marie. So,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, next up on the agenda is the Capital Outlay Committee, and they're going to discuss their fiscal year 26 capital spending plan. So I would like to invite Chair of the committee is Bob Donnelly. Would you like to come up to the table?
Sure.
Mr. Rosen, would you like to join us at the table? Anybody else is welcome, but it's getting a little tight. Thank you for staying, Mr. Mann. All right. This is obviously an important part of our fall town meeting, so thank you for joining us to review this before we vote on the articles. So, how would you like to proceed?
Well, I'll introduce and then Mike can fill in for some of the specifics on the plan. We also have invited some of the department heads with some of the more relevant, or not relevant, but higher cost items on the plan.
Yes, can I interrupt you for 1 minute? I would like to thank you all for joining us tonight. I know it was short notice, so Mr. Cheever, Mr. Ryan, Chief Bailey, Mr. Riccardi, and Mr. White, thank you for joining us tonight. I know you guys had the primary requests on the capital outlay, so forgive me for not acknowledging it before. Thank you. Okay.
So what you have on the screen there, and I believe you've seen it several times. Jeff and Mike can take us through any late changes that may have occurred. since the plan was developed. Also want to thank the committee members for their diligence and on the outlay committee for the work they've done, including the gentleman to my right and the lady in the corner over there. Thank you, members of the outlay committee. Outlay committee, as it has done in its role per the bylaw, vets all the capital requests from department heads. And what you see here is the FY26 plan of projects that have been proposed by department heads and have been vetted by the committee. And we met, I think, 3 or 4 times since beginning of spring to meet with department heads, actually be able to, in one meeting, actually, when weather was nicer, to have a touch a truck event out in the parking lot here, where we're able to see a real live fire engine and vehicles from DPW and so forth. So very hands-on. I'd like to also thank Clayton from the library for his tour of the project associated with the library. So the committee did its role. I don't have the date right in front of me, but we voted the plan sometime in September,
Yes.
middle of September. Final presentation from department, and what you have here now, and I don't have my notes in front of me, but you see on the screen the FY26 costs for the specific programs, and I think accompany, you all have the detail in terms of the funding sources that have been recommended initially from the Capital Outlay Committee. We have some recent information would be, I don't know, Mike, if this...
That's the most presented to the board.
That's, okay, so one element or one change that has occurred since our committee left is that you have a study of HVAC at the elementary schools for FY26 at $250,000. After discussions with Paul Riccardi and Tony Mizuko, this project is actually out of the plan. So Mike will present numbers that will have it reduced. Mr. Riccardi has suggested an alternate project. The project would be that in-house work be done by his facilities group to assess the condition of the electrical needs of the 6 elementary schools with an eye towards making this project to come back in the spring with a specific program for equipment replacement. So the study that he will be doing, or the work that his team will be doing, will be funded separately to the operations budget through his existing budget, and with an eye towards returning in the spring with a specific proposal for those schools in terms of electrical, HVAC needs. So that's the one project, and so I'm going to stop there just to make sure before we get into the funding mechanisms, if there's any questions specifically about the projects themselves. We do have Mark Ryan, and we do have Clayton, and we have Chief Bailey here, and we have Paul Riccardi. I did not see you in the corner over there, Paul.
That's good.
Did I describe that correctly?
Half and half.
Okay. I'll take it.
We have brought on Diorio Electric, which is a local firm who gave us a really good price, and they are looking, they're an electrical engineering company, they are looking at 5 elementary schools and looking at the existing power, and will make some recommendations on what it would take to increase the power load, the amperage at that schools. We're obviously gonna have to have the light department involved, but that's how we'll put together a price come Springtown meeting.
Okay.
And it was really just based on really going to window air conditioning units, because there is a thought that there might be, in the next 5 to 10 years, maybe a little longer, some kind of change in elementary schools. And so how do we get some relief without spending a lot of money? So that's how we came up with the window units, similar to what the Willard has.
So the capital outlay plan, as it presented you today, that project is pulled. the outlay committee has been advised that we will return in the spring to evaluate what we consider a new proposal from Paul's group to get the work done. But that will still be part of the FY26 plan, but something that we would suggest be considered in the spring town meeting. So I'm going to stop there because I think maybe it's an opportune time for you folks to ask any questions regarding the specifics of the projects. And then perhaps Sarah just go into the funding mechanisms and talk about that.
Does anybody want to start with questions?
Let me start with a question on the first one, the runway. As I address this to Mark, I'm just curious, what's the percentage of state and federal reimbursement?
State and federal is typically 95%.
Okay, so this is a $6 million project, I guess. That's all right. No, that can't be right.
It's more than that.
Yeah. Yeah, huh, okay.
Six.
Okay, all right. Been a long time since I've done math in my head, that's why I have calculators. Thank you.
You said 95%?
Yes.
I think it's, it's 95.5, right? 95.5.
Yeah.
You know,
90 federal, 5 state.
Yep,
5
okay.
local.
It's a good cost.
Okay.
Anything else from you, Mr. Slater?
Well, I mean,
It's your turn. Go for it.
just a question to Paul and to Chief Bailey on the carpeting and the public safety floor, why we're doing that in 2 batches as opposed to doing it in 1 batch?
So why we're doing it is the building's 20 years old. It's the original carpet.
Yeah.
And this last year was a killer. We had workmen all over the place, ceilings open. So we gotta go in and replace it as much as we can. And doing it in 2 batches is just a timing issue.
Okay.
It's a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week operation.
Okay.
We've already put the fire department right up until today through huge strain over the last year. So we gotta give them a little break on
Okay.
each side of that building.
Okay.
Are the trucks back in today?
Yeah, it was this
Okay.
evening, yes.
Good.
Nice to hear. Nice to hear.
Okay.
All right. Anything else? Is that it for you?
Yep.
Ms. Hale, do you have anything? No? No. Eric, you're all set, or do you have a
Yeah,
question?
you have a couple of questions, so you mentioned.
If
those.
one
I'll
of
defer
them
to
was yours? Okay, all right. Mayeb, do you have any questions?
I was just wondering if we could hear a little bit more about the rec center kitchen and what the plan is and what level of use there is of that, and
Thank you, I'm sorry. Do you mind, Sarah?
No, go ahead.
I neglected to introduce Sam White earlier, that's because you have to turn that way around.
No worries.
I don't know how I missed you.
If you want to come up and stand towards the table, if you're going to talk, I think it's just
Okay,
easier
yeah, for
with the
sure.
microphone, or you can pull your chair.
Yeah, that's fine, either way. How you doing? So the main reason why we wanted to replace, so basically, the main project is to replace all the appliances that are in the kitchen of the Civic Center. We do use it quite a bit as we are expanding our baking classes. We do breakfast with Santa out of there, breakfast with the Easter Bunny, along with, we now host AA meetings there on Saturday nights. They do use the kitchen for their coffee, and they go in there, use the sinks and whatnot. We also are, just as the Civic Center being, excuse me, an emergency building, just in case we do have to ever host people, we do want to make sure that kitchen's top notch and ready to use at all times.
so you mentioned.
Oh, you froze.
Frozen.
Are you there? Oh. All right.
Might come back.
I can't read her mind.
Yeah, it's okay.
I'm sure she'll come back, so when
Wanna
she
go back
comes
to the old
back.
office.
Oh, correct, yeah.
And what else did you say? What-
It is 50-50 between the capital outlay and the
Revolving account.
Correct,
Okay,
yes.
yep.
Yep,
And that-
25.
And that money isn't just for cabinets, it's for
It's
cabinets
appliances,
and.
it's mainly, it's appliances.
Yeah, and most of it probably is, but you're going to have to do some work around the walls and
Correct,
electricians and all of those things.
And the goal was to be to remove maybe some cabinets, because there is a lot of storage in there that we don't need, to make it more space, give it more space.
And when was the last time the kitchen was done, do you recall? A long time, right?
I've been here 13 years, it hasn't been touched.
It hasn't been done in 13 years.
It says in our notes, 2009.
I know I read that,
I'm
thank
sorry,
you,
no,
I'm sorry.
that's a
I could-
senior center, I got the wrong one. So that's-
Okay.
So
We'll defer to Paul.
we're pretty much at planned obsolescence.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so now on my stack of papers. I had sent some questions prior to the meeting, just so hopefully I'm not surprising anyone. One of the questions that came up amongst the Finance Commission members was, is there a plan to move the recurring TASER expense to the operating budget? That's a approximately $60,000 expense. I know Chief Patton is not here, but
Yes.
I'm just, I assume you can answer.
Yeah, I can answer that. So, thank you, by the way. I didn't get a chance to say hello yet. So I'm Mike Rosen, I'm the Assistant Town Manager, and I'm both the staff liaison to capital outlay, and also for the staff side, I'm the facilitator and coordinator to get the staffs through the process of the capital process each year. So, for the TASER specifically, I did talk to both Chief Patton and Tony about it. The $51,000 amount that appears in the capital plan was for the 2023 purchase of all of the tasers, so all the tasers were replaced at the same time, and it's the payment each year, $51,000 over the course of 8 years to pay off that original purchase. I think the idea that both Tony and the chief have are that come fiscal 31, after this fiscal 30, when the last payment is made for the 51,000 tranches each year, to reevaluate sort of what the market is for tasers at that time, to see if it's worth doing a bulk purchase again and doing another, I forget exactly how many tasers there are, but there are 60 officers, and you figure there's some backups out there, so call it 65 or 70 tasers. Whether to batch them all at once, or to engage in some sort of, like you said, an operating process where it would be a lease, or just pay for a few a year and sort of stagger them. So I think the answer to your question is, it could go either way. It depends on when we get to fiscal 31 to see what the market looks like for tasers. I think in the past, they did used to do the bulk purchase way, and then that was, in fiscal 23, that was the way it was advised to do at the time.
Okay, thank you for that.
Sure.
Do you have any follow-up to that, Eric?
Just from the information that goes to town meeting, if we could just add that this is an 8-year thing.
Okay.
You know, because it looks like it's just ongoing forever.
Right.
So there's nothing here that says that it's for, that number of years and expire that, so.
Mayab, I see you have rejoined us. Did you want to, we talked a little more with Sam, and he
I'll get it.
reminded us that 25,000 is coming from the revolving account and 25,000 is coming from free cash or the capital purchase. So you were in the middle of a question when you froze. So.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask a little bit more about, how much of the revenues that come into the revolving account are related to kitchen things. Like, you talked about a few programs that are happening using the kitchen, but I was just curious, sort of like is the rec department comfortable spending that revenue from the revolving fund on the kitchen?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
And again, just so if I can jump in, we'll talk about the funding in a minute, but the revolving fund portion of it is strictly limited to the appliances, stuff that the programs would touch. It's not for the overall capital, electrical, plumbing, all of that. That's going to be handled from the free cash portion.
Okay.
So that's why it's the revolving fund, but it's again, it's limited into what that fund money can be used to replace.
Okay.
And I think just, oh, go ahead, Maya.
No, I just said thank you.
Okay, I want to follow up, and I think you're working on this, I understand, with Mr. O'Neill, just working on the fees and trying to keep, her question was related to the fees that come in from the baking classes.
Correct.
Birthday parties, I know you host a number of things down there. I think that was where the question was related. I know we don't necessarily have that information right now, but as time goes forward, I think that's always useful information. to
Absolutely,
have.
like you said, that's something that we're beginning to track more and more of, and we'll have that.
Right, and I wanted to note that because I know that's going on, and I think that's important to know that we're working on that. So,
Definitely, yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving along then. Mr. Rosen, but I imagine you might defer to Mr. Ryan on this one, is how many miles of the HMA asphalt are in Norwood, and does the estimated 1.4 million over the next 2 years after this year's, does the 1.4 million over the next 2 years complete all of those sidewalks in Norwood, or is this just a portion?
This will be just a portion, Madam Chair, so there's we figure about 110 miles is HMA, hot mix asphalt sidewalks. We've done quite a bit over the years, as you see in the capital outlay in '05, we did 17 miles. And then in '16, we did close to 7 miles. And then each year, when we're doing roadway projects, we do some sidewalks each year.
Okay.
For instance, the last 4 years, we've done close to 11 miles of sidewalks, along with 33 miles of roadways. So we're making great progress on that. The next 3 years, if we get the money for sidewalks, in fiscal '26, '27, '28, that's another 33 miles.
Okay.
So we're making great progress on that. We figure, during a roadway project of standalone was, after starting this year, we'll probably do about, half to 1 mile per year in addition to those other. So we're making great progress. We've really tackled a lot of the worst ones. And so we're in good shape. Are they all covered? No, but we're going to continue.
That's more than half what you just did,
Well,
what you just acknowledged, yeah.
yeah.
It's well over half of that.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. The next question was, when were the last ambulances purchased? And if we can just talk a little bit about the ambulance plan. I know you have all shared this numerous times, so I apologize, but I think it's just good for people to understand. Chief Bailey?
Yep, so the two ambulances went into service back in October of '23. They both have in excess of 70,000 miles on them. We have one that's a spare, and one of the issues that we have currently is that the lead time for a new ambulance is 2+ years. So I want to get it in the queue, that's why we're asking for it now.
I think last time we left out a little bit, they came ready faster.
So the
correct?
last time we ended up with 2 at the same time, which isn't ideal, but it was needed at the time, so. This one here, we're gonna stagger out and try to get them back on cycle.
Okay.
A quick question, Chief Bailey, does this ambulance also come equipped?
It does, the price includes the equipment that we need on it.
Okay, thank you.
Just for reference, the 2023, they were about 480,000 apiece.
Yeah.
So again, there's another example of the inflation that we're dealing with.
The monitor alone that we use has gone from 30 to 50,000, so, yeah.
Yeah.
Does it come equipped with it comes equipped with the equipment that, I know we added at one point for lifting the stretchers and things.
Right,
Is that what it was, Stryker?
It's a striker,
So
yes,
so
that is included in that.
So that helps our firefighters from a
Yes.
safety standpoint, or
Yes, it does.
back injury or any, okay. All right,
It's the automatic stretcher. The only thing that doesn't come on the new ambulance is all the soft goods, the bandaging and all that.
okay,
But we have that in-house, so
okay,
that's transferable from the older units, because it's all kept up to date.
okay. Perfect, thank you very much. Does anybody else have anything for Chief Bailey? Are we good? Okay, and then number 5 I handled, so I guess, do we have this might be changing, but, because what sits before us now, I think was different than what we initially received. The impact on the debt service to the operating budget, because it looks like the 950,000 for the sidewalks has moved from free cash to borrowing at this
Yeah,
point.
so what I handed out was the updated schedule of the funding source. So we took the HVAC study out of there, we updated the sidewalk repair after conversations understanding that that money would be fully utilized. So when I initially put it together, I wasn't sure if we were trying to build up a fund, try to do it over a period of time. I had some concerns over sitting on any borrowed funds. Got confirmation today that Mr. Ryan and team would be using this money. So we said, okay, that's appropriate use of borrowing because we'll borrow it, we'll use it within a year. We'll probably do that for the next 2 years as well. So that will become a borrowing project each year.
Okay.
So that was added on there as the borrowing taken out of free cash. So it brings our free cash use, proposed usage to $2,109,500. I also provided you an updated debt schedule. The blue section to the right is the projected debt from the capital plan. It does not talk about the articles you're going to talk about later on regarding land purchases. So again, the proposal would be for FY27, we would borrow for the sidewalks and the library facade. And I have FY28 in there for the ladder truck. That could be pushed back a year. We could also determine with Chief Bailey, the manufacturer, when we get this up and running, if there are any cash discounts. We may come back and say, we could pay some cash and receive a discount. But the request will be to authorize the full borrowing, knowing that we don't have to go out to borrow for 2 years. Two, maybe 3. So it's just kind of a proposal at this point, but that will be in flux as we move forward to make sure that we take advantage of the most efficient pricing or financing mechanism.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions? Any further questions that I haven't covered? Maya, are you all set?
I think I'm back now. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
The borrowing would still be for the roof project, would the plan is still borrowing for that?
Yes, we have to get authorization to borrow for that. But again, as we've discussed in the past, there's still some determination on the Copley proceeds and what may be left over and how we use that.
Okay.
So the intention was if we finalize that project, get a number, we could potentially change that to borrowing using those proceeds.
And Maya, what I wanted to read to you, because I just realized you don't have the papers that we have in front of us, is that, and this was one.
Well, they weren't sent to me, were they?
What?
We didn't receive them via email, correct?
No, we didn't receive them via email. We just received them at the table tonight. Free cash for the proposed plan currently is free cash 2.1 million. The general fund operating budget is 2.2. The recreation revolving fund is the 25,000. Borrowing would be 8.95 million for the general fund, and borrowing for the enterprise fund would be 5 million.
Okay. I have no questions about the enterprise fund borrowing. That makes sense to me. We are looking at a really healthy balance of free cash, and I'm curious why we would want to borrow for some projects that we could just pay for.
All of the projects that we've identified as borrowing have long-term impacts to the community. So they're long-term projects, high value. You go back to the strategy of the intergenerational, so the borrowing will basically pays by the people that are using this. I think there's some further discussion to be had on free cash. Obviously, we have the operating budget we still have to address. We still have some funds that may not be at the level that they should be. We have a large pension obligation, so I think there may be further talk about potential use of free cash looking ahead. But these are all projects that...
Can you have these conversations prior to town meeting?
Not this town meeting, because we're obviously, a lot of this impacts what the budget is going forward.
Yeah, but I think we can make a reasonable estimate of what we expect we might need for the spring and leave a cushion and still have plenty of money left that we could think about, setting some money, just actually funding some things now so that we don't have this debt service going forward.
It's an interesting point. We should just inform the commission that the board did approve all these warrant articles at its Tuesday meeting. In this particular one, the board voted in support of the projects, but with the caveat, one member did suggest to this point that we should be looking at more borrowing, and there was a suggestion that perhaps 4 projects could be moved from free cash to borrowing. That, we had a discussion regarding that, and it was determined that the board would not vote on the funding sources until such time as town management and the finance director are able to provide information on what that would look like from a borrowing perspective. Now, since that time, it seems to me that only 1 project has moved from that category. So it's hard for me to I can't speak on part of the board, but that is something that in our next meeting, we're going to have a similar discussion, and we'll hear the presentation from Mr. Mizuko and Mr. O'Neill, and then at that time, the board will have an opportunity to chime in on that particular point. That is specifically moving that 1 project from free cash to borrowing.
Yeah. I mean, I understand the rationale for borrowing versus free cash. The issue obviously is if you borrow, and this is a 20-year project, I guess, we're talking about, you're gonna have 20 years of debt service to pay off, you know, which is gonna have implications down the road, when the rubber hits the road, and we have to, consider, whether we need an operational override or not. It's simply gonna increase that number at that point.
Does anyone else have any?
In my way of thinking, this falls under the category of, we talked about last year that we had this windfall of an unusual amount of free cash, and that the recommendation for that was to spend it on one-time items and capital improvements and things like that. So we rolled over $11 million of free cash from last year to this year. I have a hard time recommending that we borrow when we're just sitting on money.
One other, so the roof repairs, we might use excess Copley money. The ladder truck could be cash if that seemed like it made sense. Any exploration of funding some of the library facade repairs from CPC money, since it's an historic building?
I don't know if any of that would qualify, does it? Not sure I assume it would qualify, but I don't know.
I talked to
Yeah.
Tony about it, if you have any reports from Tony.
I don't, but it's actually not designated a historic register building though. It's, so I don't know if that hurts the case.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in terms of using Copley money, we have to wait until we close the project out in a couple of years before we can do that. And maybe subsequent, and maybe not this year, but subsequent roof repairs can be funded out of Copley.
I sat with this wonderful piece of facilities condition assessment for the library, and I went through it through the last week, and it really impacted me even more than what I saw when we did our turn running around the library looking at what needed to be done. And after reading this, I think that the library should be right up there on top of any of the buildings that we're doing. Like I said, I looked at all of the numbers, and they're pretty bad. And, it's a place that has some, at least the town has some historic value. And on top of that, you have all of these books and everything else in there that I could easily be destroyed. So that's my thoughts on the library.
I think just extending from that point, and making one of the comments that was made at the Capital Outlay Committee was that there are a lot of projects in here about repairing buildings, and somewhat in piecemeal fashion. And that's good maintenance. I mean, I think the facilities department is doing their job, because they're saying, here's what these buildings need. But I think there doesn't seem to be anybody that's tasked with looking at the buildings as a whole in terms of what does the town need from the buildings, and Are there perhaps opportunities for packaging some of these things up and making them a bigger project that might be eligible for grant funding, something like that? So it seems like there needs to be more sort of a comprehensive look at all the buildings. We looked at the elementary schools a number of years ago, we've looked at the library, but kind of need to look at all the buildings in a comprehensive way and see what they need and what the overall plan should be for them.
That's great, but I personally, I think that this has done what you're saying that we
Mhm.
needed to do with the other things
Exactly.
too. It took us years to do different things in this building, and it got worse and worse and worse. And now this building is actually better than the library. No?
No.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But I think that speaks to what Eric's saying, Ian,
Yeah.
is that Facilities has done a tremendous job keeping up the
Yep.
buildings. It was acknowledged in the 2017 school study that we did that our buildings were in phenomenal shape. Since it's become a town department, they've continued to maintain all of the buildings.
Yeah.
But we're making capital investments in these buildings without an overall look at every building we own. And I understand, as we all sit at this table, that we do not have the money to fix all of these things, all of these buildings, or change our buildings at this time. But in my opinion, as we make choices to do work on buildings, we should have full knowledge of what condition the buildings are in, and perhaps their estimated life based on good maintenance or whatever, so that we can plan for the future. It's more a strategic long-term. Many of us will probably be gone before these buildings happen, but we make decisions today, and I would hate to invest $3 million in a roof, and this isn't the right, but I'm just thinking, you invest a significant amount of money in a building that when we decide, whenever comes a time when we need to think about how to arrange these buildings, or how to reuse these buildings, or use swing spaces during construction of other buildings, you don't want to say, well, we can't close that building because we've invested all of this money into that building. That just to have something that looks, I don't know if I'm saying this eloquently enough, Mr. Fleming is far more eloquent than myself, but if we have something so that we understand how our buildings look, what the forecast for our buildings are, we could make better decisions as a town. So as a group, not, it's not elected boards, it's really the people who are in there working every day that, make these recommendations to us, and it would be nice to have full information on the buildings.
You wouldn't want to put a new roof in the building and a couple years later decide you want to put a second floor on it.
Correct.
That would be.
Yeah, well, let me give one other example, and that's building renovations at Town Hall. And I understand these are placeholders, and numbers certainly will change. But in FY '28, we're looking for $2 million, which I assume is for design, which would make the most sense. But at this point, until you do a full study at Town Hall, you have no idea what has to be done there. So I was just wondering if there's a plan, since it is on the capital plan, is there any kind of plan to do any type of study to determine what really are the needs at Town Hall?
I would, Paul, go ahead.
No, I mean, you're right, Alan, that 2 million is for a study.
That's that's a study, then you get $20 million the following year.
And that's a placeholder.
Yeah, okay. So you're not gonna, so the intent is not to initiate a study until FY '28. We're not talking design, that's the study.
Right.
Okay.
The Capital Outlay Committee has tried to make sure that the plan.
Sorry to interrupt, just want to make sure. The $2 million is not just for a study, I assume. Because this got a lot of press the last time, and I just want to make sure. We're not talking $2 million for a study.
Right.
$2 million is most likely study design.
Right.
So it's, okay, that's all the engineering services.
It's to inform you in terms of what the construction needs would be.
Yeah, the design of the building, yeah, so.
Yeah, I mean, I had assumed it was design of the building, because if you're gonna do a study in '28, it doesn't make a lot of sense to have a money set aside in FY '29, because until you get into the real nitty-gritty details of design, you're not gonna have the true knowledge of what some of the needs are when, your design engineer starts, poking in the walls and looking at piping and whatever. That's why, again, I assume that, there had to be design work.
So the capital outlay committee has been trying to make sure that if there's a design project in the capital plan, that there's a corresponding placeholder for construction, so you get this full sense of what's
The
going forward.
implications
The
of it, yep.
implications. But I think, to Alan's point, we almost need to have the third phase, the study, the planning phase in advance of design. Design is, here's what I want to do, go design it.
Yep.
But before that, you need to decide, what do I want to do?
Right.
That's the planning phase, we need to actually, we need to start thinking about three phases. That's what I was kind of bringing up, is we need to have that planning phase for the buildings, like what do we want these buildings to do for us going forward? And then what improvements are needed to make it happen. So and like I said, if we have a building that, for whatever reason, like enrollment's declining, we might close down their school. You wouldn't want to invest a whole lot of money in that building and then close it a few years later. Or you wouldn't necessarily want to put a whole lot of money into the building and decide you're going to increase it because you have increasing enrollment, you're going to greatly expand the building, and then you're blowing out all the stuff you just put in. So having that planning phase of what do we want to do in these buildings, what do we want the buildings to do for us, then we can decide what we need to do for the buildings.
Thank you for saying that so succinctly and clearly. I appreciate it. All right.
I think what we're really saying in the end is that, we think it's important that we do a town-wide study of all buildings to take a look at what the true needs are, and we'll know what those are, and we'll develop schedules, to do necessary repairs and/or replacement.
And it's a long-term plan, not a short-term plan, so I think that's important too, because we all know the reality of funding.
I see where you're coming from, but I think a lot of the work's being done today. I think between your group, the proposed study for town hall, the existing conditions report from the library, the work that was done on the school facilities task force. I think there's a lot of information already out there in regards to our building. I wouldn't want to, I would not want to suggest that we put a lot of money into planning for buildings such as the Coakley or the high school, buildings that we know are in good shape. So if you want to target some buildings, I think that's appropriate. And I think Paul's team can do a lot of that. So I think we need to differentiate that sometimes from a capital planning perspective. It's not necessarily a building study that's needed, but rather input that Paul's team can gather for us in some of these buildings that are aging. And I do believe that we've had a pretty good discussion regarding the school buildings and their capital needs and future use.
Right, but that study now is
It's 10 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, it was $44 million in the elementary schools. We haven't spent $1 million in the elementary schools. So, and that number is probably $60 to $70 million today. I think, from my perspective, there are so many competing needs with our older buildings that we really, part of a study would help the town make a decision on how you move forward. Who's first, who's second? Because right now, I don't think we really have any idea. It's gonna be who breaks down first. And then we'll go in and spend some money without doing a major renovation. So.
And I think more than a study, it's more of a long-term plan. It's not as much, I wouldn't necessarily say we would do the same. I just think we have a lot of information. You are absolutely correct. We need to pull it all together and then move forward from there on how. I think that's more what we're thinking. Anne, do you have a last one?
Yeah, I'm looking at this, and it's saying library MEP, design and construction, library painting, carpets, etc. And those are out of this thing. But here we have the study, this is the study that you would go by under these circumstances?
Yeah, those projects that are in the out years are actually recommendations that are like in phase 2 of the study. So these are addressing the needs further out of the library study. Udinzello's, the work that they've described in here,
Yeah.
we've broken it down so that this first $2 million fixes the penetration from the water coming in, from the infiltration from outside.
Right.
One of those phases
When
is
it-
fixing
when
up
it-
some of the HVAC issues that are causing internal leaking.
Yes.
And then I think further down the line, after all that's corrected, then that's when the
Yes.
painting comes in and all that.
Right.
So it's a
Yeah.
batting order of.
I understand,
Yeah.
I read it.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that you have it now, so why are we not doing it now?
I don't think they can do it all at once, I'm not sure.
No, I don't
Yeah,
mean
yeah.
do it all at
Yeah.
once, I mean start it. Instead, we have it started, things change, right? And we're always saying, oh, we should have done that earlier, kind of thing. And if we've got the information that we need, why aren't we doing it now?
Yeah, I think these
Because
were.
of competing interests to
Yeah.
some degree, correct, for other buildings. I mean, and we're doing 2 million this year to,
It's a big ticket, yeah. I think these are strategically staggered out so that there are other large ticket items in those years. But
Okay.
to your point, like, I think.
But my point is
Yeah.
that we've just spent a lot of money on this.
Yes,
We know what we're supposed to be doing.
yes.
And so something's gonna change between now and what's this one? 28.
Or your 3, yeah.
I think that's like throwing money out the window.
Maya, you had a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to speak a little bit more to the building study idea. I don't think anybody's proposing that we spend money on studying the Copley or the high school. Those are new buildings and they are purpose-built and we can't imagine using them for some other purpose.
Or the
But
library?
we own a lot of buildings that we haven't studied in a while. I mean, the library's gonna stay the library, but we have the Savage Center. And what are we gonna do with that? And right now, and what are we gonna, and the senior center, I think will continue to be a senior center, but are there other things that we could be doing there to make that space more useful for other reasons? And to make that just more productive? We own several buildings right around Town Hall. What are we doing with those? Are we maximizing the use of those? Are we like making smart decisions about all of these things? You know, we own the VFW, there's like a bunch of buildings we own, and I don't think we have a good sense of where, you know, what issues might be hiding from them, and what's the optimal use for these buildings. We have a lot of things that we'd like to do in town, and how can we make smart decisions about where to put some of our programs.
All right, thank you. I think we've discussed this to the end. I appreciate everybody's input. I appreciate you all coming tonight. We know you do a lot of work in those buildings, and we appreciate it. I know it takes a lot of time to iron out who gets what on the capital plan what year, so thank you for coming. Mike, do you have anything else you would like to add, or?
No, I just have 17 projects this year. This looks like a good year. As was mentioned, one was postponed for consideration until May. So it does remain on the spreadsheet because it is still fiscal 26, but it's just not part of the free cash ask for this upcoming town meeting. And yeah, that's it. It's a good capital process this year.
Okay,
Good.
thank you very much. We appreciate your time. All right.
Thank you. Good night, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Kevin, for coming.
You guys? I'm gonna be back here in the back bench anyway.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay.
You can stay at the table.
That's okay.
Okay.
I'll be a spectator.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can warm your old seat up.
I didn't know you put a name tag on.
Okay, so the next item on our agenda is to vote on the capital plan. I want to remind the board that we do have a meeting on October 30th. From what I understand, just based on our discussion, and I did speak with the general manager earlier today, this change in funding sources obviously it's just happened, we just got the information this evening. So I'm happy to have a discussion. I don't like to put things off, but I do think that if we want to put the vote off until October 30th, I don't think that's out of the realm of possibilities. I'm just throwing it out there as a suggestion. But I would like to hear your thought, all of your thoughts on the capital outlay plan and what we just discussed.
My thought is, I'd like to take a position on capital outlay. You know, we are meeting again in October 3rd, 2 weeks, so, you know, if we may decide different funding source as an example. But I think it's important, I mean, the selectmen have taken a position, which we appreciate. I think it's important that we take a position now so that, you know, townspeople know what the view of the FinCom is.
So is your suggestion to take a position and reevaluate the funding sources, or?
I suggest that we take a position based on I'm going to simply say the proposal in front of us right now, the revised proposal, with the full understanding that when we may look at this in a little bit more detail, and we may decide, as an example, when everything is said and done, you know, we think that maybe we should pay, you know, cash for the sidewalk repair, and we could make that determination October 30th.
Okay.
Or you can do it the other way. It really doesn't matter to me, but I would like to take a position on the projects.
Okay, I appreciate that. Anyone else have anything to add to the conversation?
Just procedurally, I take it each project's going to be voted on separately at town meeting? So we have 17 separate votes?
Can you hear Eric, Maya?
Sorry.
I just want to make sure you can hear Eric.
Yeah,
Okay, all right. No, I believe they're grouped.
It's the capital funding source,
Correct.
correct.
They group by funding source.
Funding source, okay.
It's usually four motions, roughly.
Can that change on town meeting floor?
If somebody wants to pull one out and switch the funding source, yes.
So would the borrowing ones have to each be separate because they're different terms?
No, I don't believe so. I think it's an overall borrowing authorization, right? Doesn't matter.
Bond council writes it, so
Yeah.
it might be.
I don't think it's not the. I think
It
it's
might
the
be a very
project
long
side.
motion, but it'd be one
Yeah,
motion.
I don't think
Okay.
it's, I don't think it's regarding each separate project.
Okay.
Town meeting is authorized
So-
to borrow for those.
Borrowing, then free cash.
I think all we have to do is just vote borrowing. I don't think, you know, whatever the
Yeah.
length of the term
Yeah,
is what the length of the
Yeah, 'cause
term is.
that may change as
Yeah.
well. When we go to borrowing, we talk to
Right.
municipal
Yeah.
The cost
advisors,
of
they may say-
borrowing.
Yeah.
They may say, well, you
Yeah.
got 3%, so why don't you
Yeah.
take this 15 years? And
Yeah.
say, we'll
Yeah.
structure that differently.
Yeah.
We just need the authorization.
Right. Oh, and the operating budget ones, we don't have to vote on anyhow, so we just take those off, okay.
Maya, did you have something that you wanted to ask? No?
No.
Okay, all right. Jeff, can I just ask you one more question? And I know you talked about this while everyone was here, but it's the ladder truck note. We're asking for $3 million to borrow, but you may choose to pay cash installments, pay cash in installments depending on free cash certified amounts. We have the free cash certified amount. Is that, if you decided to do that, does it have to come back to town meeting, or is it because of that note?
No, I think what we'll do is we'll ask for the full authorization to borrow. So that will be the motion that we're having here. When we get the specs and the build-out of the truck, we will see what that looks like. So if we come at the end of next year, we have certified free cash, we may say, hey, there's a upfront 10% savings. Does it make sense to use free cash at that point? The authorization, if we don't borrow the full amount, at some point we'll just reduce that authorization. So if we borrow $2 million, we'll have $1 million of authorized but unissued bonding that we will just come back to town meeting and say we're gonna get rid of that.
Okay.
So again, it gives us the flexibility. I think Tony was the one that said, you know, we might want to pay cash. I'm not sure that the discounts, I mean, there's been some consolidation in the industry, especially for fire trucks.
Okay.
So there may not be that
all the
cash discount,
savings
because again,
are gone,
they've
yeah.
got a boatload of projects, so they're not hurting for cash. You know, in
Right.
the past, you know, they're competing with 5, 6, 7 different entities. Some manufacturers might have offered a little bit better pricing structure, just like buying a new car. So it's a very
Sounds like a monopoly.
Sounds like it's getting there, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, where are our trust busters, you know, the good old days, where's Teddy Roosevelt when you need him?
But if I could just add just one more thing to the borrowing, really just the thought process is kind of why we moved the sidewalks up there. Obviously, you know, we got our bond rating, we got the AA+. One of the mentions in there is obviously the wealth factor of the town. We can't do anything about that. One of the other factors is reserves. Now, S&P is a little bit kind of strange because Massachusetts is municipalities where the rest of the country seems to be counties. Counties tend to have a bigger reserve. So they're in the 20 to 25% range. So S&P will always kind of mention you should have your reserves up. So I think that piqued the interest of a couple individuals, and that's where this came from, saying, well, we may want to use free cash to bump up some of those reserves looking forward. Again, we don't know what our operating budget is, so we can't even talk about that yet. But I think that was, you know, we can borrow here, save some free cash, potentially offset the budget, potentially, again, the pension is my biggest concern going forward.
Yep.
So if we can start putting more money into that pension trust that we have, it's not based on the market. If the stock market crashes, if we have a big drop in that, we can then time that money going into that. So
Yeah.
that's one of the thought process. So there's more to discuss on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's also a good point because, you know, we're thinking of putting money into the new capital stabilization account, you know, and with the understanding that there's a lot of competing interests too, but, you know, again, taking money off of free cash and putting it in borrowing does open up a little bit more money that we could use for different types of reserves.
Yeah.
And just before we vote on anything, there is one correction I made on the chart here that Jeff provided us. The second to last project is entitled Underway Meter Connection Chamber.
So I changed that one.
That is
I
now
that one, yeah.
Route 1 water main
Yeah.
improvements. We're not doing the connection chambers anymore.
Yeah.
And it's just
So-
design, it's not construction.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the money is there, but it's for a different thing.
Yeah, so the title is what's in the presentation,
Okay.
And Route 1 water main
improvement design,
design, that's just a design.
just design,
Yeah.
yes.
It's just my sheet. This
Yeah,
is
it's
just
correct on
sheet,
the other
that's
sheet,
all.
but it's.
Yeah, just in this
Yep.
chart, I
Yep.
just want to make sure it all matches. Thank you.
All right.
You know, we did have all of our little amounts of money set aside, and every time we got, which one was it? We would get there, and then something would happen with the money, and boom, it goes back down again, you know, and it just does that on cycles. And, yeah, so we need to have more than enough.
Yes.
So
Alright.
I'll
We did.
entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the capital plan as it presented in this document dated 10/16/2025, which includes obligations of free cash totaling $2,109,500. I don't think we have to comment on the operating budget. Recreation revolving fund, $25,000. General fund borrowing, $8,950,000. Enterprise fund borrowing, $5 million.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Fleming. Is there any further discussion?
Just as I said, you know, let's approve this. When we talk on October 30th, we may or may not decide whether whether it can be a different funding source for a particular item.
I'd just like to say I am in favor of the projects. I will not be voting in favor of this motion because I'm not currently in favor of these funding sources. And I do understand, I'm happy to have another vote on October 30th.
Okay.
Thank you. Anything further? Okay, so now I will do a roll call vote. Mayev?
No.
Eric?
Yes?
Ann?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, so. And we will revisit this on October 30th, so thank you. The next item on our agenda is to vote on special town meeting requests. Mr. Mr. Mannion, thank you for being patient with us tonight. I apologize. I really have to think about my organization of the agenda a little better, sorry. All right. Do you have the warrant articles?
Didn't-
Oh, please,
I think they
yeah.
buried in there, yeah.
Here we go.
What does it look like?
It's warm.
Do we have a list of all of the amounts requested?
You know what, I don't think I have the list, do you
That
have
was
it?
in the draft yellow sheet.
Wasn't in the draft yellow sheets?
That came, what, less than 2 hours before our meeting?
They don't have the whole yellow sheet, they just have the.
No, I think did I send the draft yellow sheets earlier?
I thought I saw something. Maybe it was just the part about
It's
the
just
layouts.
the line.
It was just the land.
Hofsky's?
Yeah.
I
Okay.
found it.
Do you have the amounts, Mr. Rosen?
I can try to go through them, sure.
Can you please?
Yes.
It's kind of important we have the amounts.
No problem. Article 1. So Article 1 is the appropriation for the Workers' Compensation Insurance Fund. This article appropriates $400,000 to strengthen the fund. $400,000.
From free cash?
Yes, free cash.
Free cash.
Article 2 is the appropriation for the OPEB trust fund. That is the amount of $749,855. $749,855.
And that is free cash again?
Yes, free cash.
Okay.
Article 3 is the Water Sewer Enterprise Fund deficit associated with the capital project from 2018. That amount is $3,845.86. That would be.
That from enterprise fund?
That would be paid from retained earnings from the enterprise fund, correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Article 4, sewer I&I study, that's the one that we're switching the funding source. The amount is $392,500. And that is coming from free cash to, what is it, it's currently borrowing,
It's
right?
currently free cash, we're gonna borrow, it's gonna go back to free cash.
It's gotta go back to free cash. 392,500.
Free cash.
So the 392,500 goes back to free cash.
Yes.
Okay.
So it was originally approved as a free cash.
Okay.
NWRA, the reserve fund came back and told us to participate in the program, you're supposed to borrow the portion. You're not supposed to allocate free cash to it. That's how they continue to keep the fund going.
Okay.
So we will
So
authorize the borrow. This was noticed in our next phase when we were doing it. They kind of picked up on it and said, wait a second. So we basically borrowed a phase early. This one will go back and be appropriated to the next phase. So yes, we used $392,500 in free cash. We shouldn't have. That will then go back to free cash this year.
Okay.
So basically Articles 1 and 4 basically offset each other,
Essentially, yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
To free cash, right?
Although that money that's going back to free cash, does it go back to free cash now or next year?
No, next year, because this article goes into, once it gets approved, so it'll be fiscal '26 certified free cash.
Yes, okay.
Just to clarify, we're putting money back to free cash, but the way I read this, aren't we also borrowing money for that project?
Yes, so that's what I was saying, so
Okay.
we borrowed
Well, I
already,
wasn't-
the next phase, we're gonna use this allotment of money to borrow for the next phase.
Gotcha, okay, understood
Hold on a
now.
second, but does any of this come out of the water, the enterprise fund?
No, because it was free cash.
Right, it
The
goes-
borrowing's in the enterprise
Right,
fund.
it goes back,
Yeah,
it goes, the borrowings, so
yes,
the general fund free cash is gonna get almost $400,000.
correct,
Any future phase is coming out of enterprise fund.
correct,
Okay, so it's not like we're putting it back and taking it away, it's going back and staying
yeah.
there. Okay.
That's why the Article 1 offsets
10 minutes or so.
Article.
Yeah, okay,
Yes.
just making sure. Mechanics, all right?
Okay.
Article 5?
Article 5, the Special Education Reserve Fund, the amount is $580,959 from free cash to the reserve fund.
Okay.
That number?
580,959.
And how is that number determined?
That is 2% of the net school spending for Norwood schools as reported in the FY24 DESI end-of-year financial report. That number is 79 million.
Oh, that's for Article 5.
Yeah,
Or is
Article
that
5,
for
yeah.
Yeah, we moved to Article 5.
Right. It's the amount we're allowed minus the million that's already in there.
No, I got it. I just thought we were talking about the capital stabilization and I was confused.
Nope, that's coming up in a second.
Okay.
Well, actually, I don't have a number for
No,
Article 6.
we're gonna
so-
discuss that, yeah.
Should I skip it for a moment?
Yes.
Okay. Article 7, I know we haven't talked yet about Kofsky Farm. So Article 7 is the acquisition of 820 Neponset Street, which is also known as the Kofsky Farm parcel in Norwood. This one is still up in the air because there's a purchase and sale agreement needs to be signed and everything. But as noted in the yellow sheet, it looks like the acquisition price is
$253,848, yeah.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
7
I forwarded
million.
$everyone your email,
Yeah.
so that they
Yeah,
know.
what's the number again?
7,253,848.
You know, is that subject to an appraisal or is that the final number?
Well, we have an appraisal undergoing right now, so I was out there this morning. But that is what the family has been talking to management here, council's involved, so I guess they're negotiating. That's the
Okay.
number that's been negotiated.
Tentatively, that's the number, okay.
Yeah, but of that amount, to point out, of that amount, this is a specific number here, 6,176,677.36. That's the money that's been set aside from the proceeds from the Forbes estate sale. So if you back that out, if anybody has a good calculator, was about
Roughly 1 million.
It's about $1 million. We're good, we got that, yeah.
So that's the ask.
The million.
1.1, yeah. 1.1.
Okay.
Article 8 is the sidekick properties that abut the Kofsky Farm, 814 and 816 Neponset Street, also currently undergoing an appraisal. It's a little easier because this is just single-family homes on an acre of land. The other one's 20.6 acres of land. This is 1.8 million for the both properties. This would be a borrowed article.
Oh. And would CPA money be used for that?
No, I think it's purely a borrowing article.
Yeah.
You'd
Are we doing,
have to put a project before the CPA to get that.
That is true, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, are we doing multiple appraisals there for that?
It's one appraiser has done both houses. One appraiser went last week to both houses.
I'm saying we only have one appraiser.
We have, for 820 and 814, 816?
Yeah.
820 is a different appraiser that's doing it, a specialist, and 814, 816 is a residential appraiser. It's a lot
But
easier.
just one appraisal?
There's one appraisal.
One appraisal for, 820 has its own appraisal, 814 and 816 are a different appraisal.
No, I'm saying for 814 and 816, you're only doing one appraisal.
I haven't gotten the report yet, so I'm not sure how it's coming back, but we contracted with a firm to do the work. I don't know how they're submitting it to us yet, but it's
Okay.
being considered one purchase, yes.
So that number is subject to change based on the appraisal?
Yes, I mean, again,
Negotiation based.
negotiation based, but you know how the town, we can't pay more than the appraised value of a parcel.
I don't think it was on the market for that much.
And then the capital article, we just went over the free cash and
Yep.
the numbers there. Okay.
All right, thank you for that.
Can somebody total that up? What is the request for free cash,
Hold on.
including what we've got so
Yeah,
far?
that's it.
We should have the exact
Including
number
capital.
for the cost, just gotta subtract it out.
Well, okay, we have free cash of 24.8. Capital is now down to 2.1. Currently, as we stand, the land, let's see, Article 1 is $400,000 of free cash, but that washes with Article 4, so are you okay if I just ignore those two right now? Or do you want me?
It doesn't wash
No,
this
it
year,
doesn't
though,
wash.
Okay,
Sarah.
yeah, you're
No,
right,
use the
I'm
free
sorry.
cash, I'm totaling up.
Okay.
I just don't know what we're doing with Article 7. What is the excess?
I'll get that.
What is the excess? I know the number, but what are we, is that free cash?
Free cash, yeah, the 1.1 is free cash.
I'm sorry, which article is free cash?
So part of the Kofsky purchase, the part that's not covered by the Forbes is, I'm assuming it's free cash.
We have that as Article 8 on the version that I'm looking at of the
Oh,
Yes. Yes.
warrant.
I think I sent a revised copy this afternoon that you probably don't have, I just got it this morning, so, you probably haven't had a chance to look at it, Maya, so.
Okay. Which one was removed?
No, Article 7 is Kosky, you're looking at, yours is saying Article 8
Yeah,
is
Article
Kosky.
7 is Kosky.
Article 8 is.
Article 8 is, no, you're looking at the right one. I'm confused, Maya, repeat it.
Okay, I just thought that we were talking, I'm just not sure we were looking at the same one, but okay.
Are you looking at Article 7 and is it Kosky?
Yes.
Okay, then we're looking at the same one. There's 9 articles on the one you're looking at?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Sorry for the confusion.
So the total is about roughly $4,940,000. And that's assuming that Article 8, or 7.
Uses cash.
Yeah, assuming Article 7 uses cash as the difference between the purchase price and the amount sitting in the receipts reserved for real estate account.
Okay, so can you just repeat the number, 4.9 million?
4.94 million.
Okay.
Okay, which doesn't include anything for Article 6.
Correct. So with the 24.8, Maya, that we have, if we spend the I'm gonna say 5 million, okay? We're down to 19.8,
Yeah.
okay?
So let me ask this question. Why would we borrow for Article 8 but not for Article 7?
I have not been involved in this, I do not have that answer.
And this was, Mr. Mizuko said this is a borrowed article, so that's how I drafted it as such.
I'm just,
No, it's a
Seems-
fair question.
yeah, it
There-
seems
it's a-
odd. Why would
It's
you-
the same thing, so why would we
Yeah.
take
either all
free
free
cash
cash
for
or all
one?
borrowing it.
Mhm.
I mean, if the issue is preservation of free cash, I would think that you'd want to borrow.
I mean, it is definitely a long-term purchase. That would be, land would be how many years?
30.
30 years, so.
So that's certainly something we want to think about.
Do we want to go through the articles and vote on what we can, and we have the October 30th meeting to discuss further? Is the commission comfortable with that?
Just try.
Okay. Okay, one point, at the beginning of our meeting, Maya, when you weren't, I don't believe you were on at that time, Madam Moderator joined us and informed us, we did not have to vote on this, but did inform us that she and the general manager had met and that they are going for consent agenda for Articles 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
When we discussed it, most of these are articles that that are driven by either our policy or, in the case of Article 1, I believe, it's something that we need to do, so that's why they considered lumping those as a consent agenda. But it's just, the practice is to inform the FinCom, so they inform the FinCom and the Board of Selectmen this week on those, so that they're considering consent agenda for that, so, just so you know. Okay, so Article 1 is just, do I need to read these articles for us to vote on them, or how do you guys want it? What's the practice? Still new here, people.
I think just a brief summary so we know what we're talking about.
Okay, so.
It's like, say, workers' compensation insurance.
Article 1 is to bring workers' compensation to a sufficient level. It is noted that it would be $400,000 funded through free cash.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? I'll do a roll call vote. Mayev?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, that's unanimous. Article 2 is to move $749,855 of free cash to the OPEB fund. We're doing this year because we do this every year. It's part of our policies for any funds left over in the budget in the operating budget from the health insurance benefits. Please correct me if I say anything incorrectly. We move that each year, and it's part of our policy to move that to OPEB. So that is the amount that was left, and we are moving it to free cash And we are moving it to OPEB from free cash. Anybody have any questions?
Just listening to the selectmen's meeting, I know that there was some thought that in the future, it's okay for this year, but in the future, maybe we look at some of our financial policies and potentially, instead of putting money into OPEB, maybe we put it into pension.
Correct. That would be my strong recommendation. OPEB is one of those that we can have minimal funding in the operating budget. We have a plan to fund it is, once our retirement is fully funded, be that 100, 110, 125%, whatever that number is, and we dedicate those appropriations to OPEB going forward.
Thank you. Do I have a motion or any further discussion, guys?
So moved.
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion?
What are you thinking of?
No, I'm just thinking, it's a substantial amount of money, whether we should hold off until the spring and put that into pension instead. You have any thoughts, Jeff, on that? OPEB versus pension?
Again, I'm always going to sit here and say pension is more important because that's more of an immediate impact, but that would go 100% against the stated financial policy.
Okay, all right. So one of the things we could certainly do in the interim is work on amending that financial policy so that, at a minimum, it gives us the flexibility.
Correct. I think that would be a good route to go. And again, when S&P, the rating, they did ask for our policy, so they do look at those. So if we can give a little more flexibility to that, to have either or if we do the policy to pension and then OPEB, I think that's a good plan that's in writing that you don't have to deviate from going forward.
Okay.
Things to do list item.
Yep, action item. Do we initiate the review of financial policies, or?
We have, yes.
All right. So I have a motion on the floor and it's been seconded. Any further discussion? Maev?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Okay. Okay, Article 3. Oh, boy, okay. Would you like to explain this,
Yes,
Mr. O'Neill, please?
So again, this is just a request to use retained earnings in the water sewer fund to cover a deficit in a fund from 2020. $3,845.86. This currently sticks out as a deficit on our balance sheet annually, and it is a hit to retained earnings. Obviously, it's not a big number, but the recommendation from DOR, the only recommendation is because it's been on your balance sheet for a couple of years, you can't just make that go away. We need to see a vote.
All right. So moved?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Maev?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you for that explanation. All right. And so in Article 4, we are returning $392,500 to free cash based.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, we
Go
don't want
ahead.
to say we're returning it, so we're rescinding the free cash motion.
Appropriation, yeah.
Yes. So in its place, all costs, as it says, all costs incidental will be borrowed in the amount of $392,500. So you're rescinding an appropriation from free cash from October 18th, 2021 special town meeting. In its place, all the costs will be borrowed.
So part one, we rescind the appropriation. Part two, we authorize the borrowing of the same amount.
Yep, it's all one
to be
motion,
paid
but
for
in
water
multiple
rates.
parts,
Right.
yes, yes.
So two parts, rescind the appropriation, authorize the borrowing, paid for by water rates.
Correct.
Okay.
I'll second that.
And again,
So
this
you won't
was,
have to say it
yeah,
again.
this was MWA bond council, everybody agree that this is the right way to do that.
Okay.
Is there any discussion? So I'll take a vote. Mayev,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Ann,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes, that passes unanimously. Article 6. Article 5, sorry.
You've waited
Mr.
so
Mannion
long.
really wanted to stay extra when I skipped this one, sorry. Okay, this is the article where we would vote to move $580,959 from free cash into the special education reserve account. So that is equal to 2% of net school spending from 2024. And that's how you decide on the level. Okay? Do we have any discussion on this? Or a motion?
So moved?
Second.
Any discussion? So I'll take a roll call vote. Mayev?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So that passes unanimously. Mr. Mannion, thank you for being patient. Okay, now we're going to skip over Article 6 because we still need to discuss that. So we will go to Article 7 to see if this is to see if the town will authorize the purchase, will authorize the Board of Selectmen to complete an agreement to purchase the land at 820 Neponset Street, also known as the Koski Farm. It's important to note that a previous town meeting had put aside part of the had voted to put aside part of the Forbes estate proceeds for purchase of open space. This is fulfilling that vote, and the cost for it is, well, where did I put those numbers? Sorry.
The Koski Farm?
The Koski Farm.
$7,253,848.
$7,253,848, and we have $6,100,000.
$76,677.36.
We have $6,176,677.36 from the Forbes estate proceeds. The remaining money, we believe, is free cash, but I'm not 100% sure. At this moment, that is what we are being informed of, but it is not entirely clear. So that is where we stand on Article 7. So.
Could I suggest that we defer voting on these two articles until we get the final amounts based on the appraisals and the final determination? I mean, I personally think that this Article 7 should be borrowing, not free cash, but I think we need to see the final proposal before we can vote on it.
Okay.
Works for me.
I also think it puts the town in kind of a weird negotiating position if, like,
Okay.
we've had a vote on it, we haven't even talked about price, or we haven't finalized price.
Okay.
Yes, agreed.
So we will postpone
Right.
voting on both Articles 7 and 8. Is
Yeah.
that what we agreed to as a
Yeah.
board?
And I agree with Eric. I think that we should take a hard look at borrowing for that.
I look at what?
Borrowing.
Oh.
What isn't paid out of the Forbes. I assume this amount zeroes out the proceeds from Forbes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that amount likely to change with interest between now and whenever we?
No interest goes to the general fund.
Oh,
It's not
okay.
interest-bearing.
All right. So I've now lost my agenda. Hold on one second.
Well,
Okay.
Article 6.
Article 9 was capital outlay. We already
You already
voted on
voted
that.
on it? Okay.
We voted
Yeah.
on that. 4-1.
Yeah.
Do we need to, we voted on the plan. Do we need to vote on the article, or are we good? That was, the plan is the article, correct?
Good.
Okay. All right. So now we need to discuss the capital stabilization reserve policy, but we also need to come up with a number that we would want to put into that fund for this town meeting. So I guess we can start with the policy. I don't know if you all had time to look at the policy and the notes I had put on the document in our file. I'd appreciate any feedback from that, from the board. I don't,
So you'd made basically two comments.
and these were based on, sorry, I should preface this. I reached out to some members as requested at the last meeting, I forwarded our draft of the policy to the Board of Selectmen. They were very appreciative that we had, that we sent that along in conjunction with our request for the warrant article. I did receive some feedback from some members of the Board of Selectmen. I appreciated it, and I thought it was important to make sure that all members of the FinCom were updated on that. I guess I should probably, for the record, comment first on it. So there was some concern about the line item where it says the capital stabilization fund may be utilized to maintain the level of general fund capital spending called for in the capital plan in the event of. There was some confusion as to what that meant. So I did propose an alternative, and I'm not sure if it gets to the heart of the matter, but we can start right there. The capital stabilization fund may be utilized if spending requests called for in the capital plan cannot be made due to, and then starting with those 1, 2, 3, 4. Does that make sense to everyone, or is that something that is not clear?
I think it's clear.
I have no problem with that change.
Okay. Is Maya still with us? We just can't see her because it's okay.
No,
No, it's okay, as long as she's with us. No, I don't need to see her. I can, as long as I want to make sure she was there, so.
And that is better than the first one, yeah.
Okay. Also, there was some concern about a contradiction between number 1, insufficient available free cash, and that last line, the use of funds from this account shall be limited to capital projects with a minimum expenditure of $1 million and a service life of at least 20 years. They seem to contradict one another. If there was an item that was emergent enough, if it was less than $1 million, would we purchase it out of a capital reserve fund? I think that's the question. If we're looking at a reserve fund for extraordinary, I guess that goes to the purpose of this of this stabilization. Is it for emergency purchases and beyond our normal capital spending, or is this to be put aside for future capital spending that we know is coming? I guess that's my question.
I mean, I'm the one who put this particular language in. I just wanted to make sure that it's spent for a capital project, and you're not just gonna decide that, here's a DPW vehicle, or, here's a mower we need at the cemetery as an example, and use that. I mean, I'm certainly amenable to changing the amount or changing the language. I mean, I get what the comment is. So I'm certainly amenable to any kind of language change.
I think there's two ways to look at it. We kind of had this conversation earlier about a reserve fund versus a stabilization fund. I believe we titled this stabilization fund, correct?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So when I put the draft together, I was basing it off that word stabilization.
Okay.
So the idea is free cash goes up and down.
Yep.
But your capital spending, you probably
Yep.
want to be fairly uniform.
Mhm.
So, kind of like special ed, you have an unusually high year of spending or an unusually low year of free cash, you need something to fill the difference. So this is what you could use this for. But in addition to that, to go to Al's point, there are going to be things you'd want to have sort of reserves for, like a large project pops up in the midst of your normal routine spending. You might want to use the fund as opposed to borrowing. It could be due to the fact that interest rates are very high. It could be due to whatever reason. You again, use this as an opportunity, as an alternative funding source when other sources perhaps were not desirable. So, I mean, the language that's highlighted here at the end about use on a project, I mean, you could basically say, look, in the event those things happened, you would pick out a project that meets these criteria and fund it from this fund to offset the fact that you don't have enough free cash or the interest rates are high or whatever. So you'd have to target it, as
Okay.
opposed to just, we're gonna take $1 million out of the fund and just add it to what we're spending on the year's
Capital
plan,
outlay.
on the capital outlay in general. You'd have to target it to, I'm gonna take this particular project we funded from this fund, I guess is the idea.
Jeff,
Go
Jeff,
ahead.
could I just ask you a question about the policies like this in general? I mean, I think it's really important for everybody to have a sense of how we intended to use this money when we set money aside. But in the end, it's really town meeting's vote to take money out of this account, right? And if town meeting wanted to do it and it was not exactly in keeping with the letter of the policy, that would be allowed, right? It's not like it's a,
Not illegal.
Correct.
yeah, right,
correct.
it's not
Somebody-
legally binding.
Yeah, if somebody could make a motion, could make a request to move this and 2/3 of town meeting votes for it, it comes out of there. So again, it would just be the same thing, it's against, it would be voted as against the policy per se, but
It was a
the
town
will,
meeting
the will
vote.
of town meeting overrules that.
Perhaps.
Yeah, and I'm not saying like I want to set up a policy and not plan to follow it, but I just think I don't want us to tie ourselves in knots trying to imagine every possible contingency when in the end, town meeting can overrule this policy if there are exigent circumstances.
Perhaps what we could do, instead of saying the funds shall be limited, say they should be, which is a little bit less prescriptive. And then if town meeting decides to, not really violating the policy, to just,
The only thought I have is, are you still leaving the at least 20 years in there? Because that severely limits your applicable uses of this fund. It's gonna be basically for a major building, because we don't have any more land purchases, so it's unlikely that that's gonna fit. So it's gonna be a major infrastructure project.
What would you suggest as an alternate?
Just the $1 million limit.
or 15 years?
10 years?
Well, again, I don't know what you're trying to get at.
I mean, the intent was for, significant projects. You set aside money knowing that something's coming down the road such that you don't have to borrow in a year where you have limited amounts of free cash.
Mhm.
But again, that could be, doesn't have to be a building project. That could be, another ambulance as an example.
Well,
know,
that's
which
what
is-
I was just going
Which
to
is,
say.
if 20 years is too restrictive, then, let's come up with another number. Or maybe if you just have, a minimum expenditure number, you don't need a service life number necessarily.
So I was kind of thinking of this in a way that this is for, I would say for like an emergency, right?
I don't
No.
think that, I think, no, that's
No,
not an
I'm not,
emergency.
okay. Something unexpected, not an emergency, something unexpected. Say the pavement down at the airport all of a sudden got pushed down and we have water everywhere and we need to get this cleaned up. And it would cost us over $1 million. So it's like these one-time things. So I'm not sure that we should make the number of years that we were borrowing. Can we get away without doing any?
You can go with just the definition of a capital project. I mean, just to your point though, an emergency like that, that's gonna be the general stabilization fund. That's not gonna be capital stabilization. So this is gonna be for
Okay.
capital projects. We have an emergency, this building for something.
Okay.
That's an applicable use of your
Okay.
general stabilization fund.
I was trying to find a way
Yeah.
that we would be
Yeah.
using this.
All right, so what are we saying, to eliminate this particular phrase? That-
Or no, but the use of the funds from this account shall be limited to capital projects. And if we do that,
It's limited to what's on our capital project list. So
Yeah.
you could vote to use it for any of those projects you want.
and where you're talking about it being most likely like a building, Alan, right? Like that's
Yeah,
where,
again, I mean, I could see people trying to use this to do a $20,000 mower at the cemetery, but, I mean, that's,
But I think, but again, then
That's fine.
but that's also where we have a system of checks and balances, and if we're gonna utilize this account, we'd be voting on it,
okay.
right?
Yeah.
All
On
right.
something like that, so I think that that's where you've gotta, we don't wanna write ourselves into.
Yeah, we don't wanna
as ma-
tie
as
ourselves
my
in
as in-
knots,
in
yeah.
knots, because
All right.
if there's some, it may not be you, but it could be, or me, but it could be a new FinCom that would be voting on this
Yeah.
and hopefully apply the intent, so.
I mean, do we even have to say, you know, the use of funds shall be limited to capital projects? I mean, is that
Yes.
redundant?
It's a capital stabilization. I think
Okay.
it's just.
All right, so we'll just say that, okay.
And then I think on the final part, replenishment, I think as I noted in there has to, somehow we have to say there has to, if funds are withdrawn, there has to be a specific plan for replenishment of those funds. Whether it be, however it be done, but similar to what we did, I don't know, I think most of us were around for the DPW project when we pulled money out of the stabilization. There was a specific plan to replenish those funds over the years, and that was done before the money was withdrawn. So I would,
I have a suggestion.
mhm,
All right, our policies say that free cash in excess of $5 million should be put into stabilization funds.
mhm.
So my thought would be if we need to have a formula basis here, we would
Right.
say it should be replenished using 5% of the available free cash in excess of $5 million each year. Which could be something around, at this current stage, would be something like $1 million.
Free cash in excess. Okay. Now that's for replenishment, is that also for the funding, or is that not? Because we also
I
have to
would,
fund.
I could say that could be just a general funding mechanism, that every year you look at your free cash, take off 5 million, take 5% of the balance and put it in the fund. And it would be either to put money in the fund or replenish the fund, either way it works, so.
Does that work?
I don't disagree with the methodology.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, Eric.
And then perhaps we can just take off the sentence about it's fully funded when we get to 5
Yeah.
million, just delete that.
If, how likely, I mean, I guess in the past few years, we would have funded this significantly. Do we need to have a top level to, if we write into it that 5% of our cash in excess of $5 million, are we, it's very unlikely we're gonna repeat what we've experienced.
Correct, I don't think that's gonna be a challenge.
Okay.
But it's also, like I said, you're gonna be, most likely this fund, if it goes forward, is gonna be used for a significant capital project.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's gonna be more than
That's
whatever you can.
certainly
accumulate
the
for years.
intent.
Yeah, the intent would be. I think, we can still get into beyond, before this, is this the right way? I don't know how much money you wanna put in here, but
Mhm.
again, I think we need to have a further discussion, as I mentioned before, as what reserves do we want to prop up? What is more important to us? Again, I'll keep going back to the
I think
pension.
That's the next part of this
Yeah.
conversation,
Yeah.
which I appreciate you raising.
Because again, we know the pension is going up 5% a year, most likely, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Any market correction, that is going to go up significantly higher. So now you're going to have a larger portion of your budget that has to go to that. And that's one of those lines you can't mess with. Whereas capital, one year you can reduce it. But the pension is you have to meet that minimal, the annual required contribution.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So just something to think about.
Well, and I guess that goes, does anybody else want to comment before I talk? Or
I was just gonna say, if I was writing this, I would put it as a should, not a shall.
Yeah,
So it's a good practice too, rather than you have to, so.
right, and I've noted all your notes, so I will make all these corrections and resend it out to everybody. I guess now we need to talk about the funding of this for this year. Is that the next
Yeah.
course of business?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Alan.
Well, I mean, I would, in a perfect world, I'd like to fund this, up to the $5 million limit that was talked about, even though we took that out. I think I'd like to put money in it. Having said that, as Jeff has noted, there are competing interests, but we do want to put some seed money into this, while we have the ability to do that. We're certainly not going to have this amount of free cash available for any purpose, which we certainly don't expect to. So I'll just throw out a number. Why don't we just say 2 million, just to start some discussion. Then we recommend you put $2 million into the capital stabilization fund.
Every year?
No, I mean, we
Just
begin,
to start.
this is Article
Okay,
6.
just the top start.
Article 6.
Which after I just want to remind everyone that we were at 19.8, right? After all of the other items on that, assuming that did we include Article 7?
Yes.
In that?
Yeah.
Assuming that Article 7 would be a free cash article. So we are down to 19.8, 2 million of that is about 10% of our remaining free cash budget. So,
And, we can
just
talk,
saying that.
and again, when we meet in a couple of weeks, we can talk about some of those other items, that are free cash, whether we want to do borrow. I mean, a perfect example is, Kopsky Farm, where we have a number. So I would suggest, $2 million. That puts some money in there. It's not insignificant, but $2 million out of 25, almost $25 million of free cash is not a significant amount of money, I don't think. And then, we could look at what some of our obligations are, and I think Jeff makes a good point that maybe in the Springtown meeting, we should see what we can put into pension, which has a number of benefits, including reducing the amount of money out of the operating budget we have to put into pension in any given year.
Stabilization.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good with that. If you're making a motion, I'll make the second.
I'll make that as a motion.
Second.
Okay, further discussion? Ann?
No?
Maya?
No, I didn't mean
I'm in
no,
favor of
I didn't, yes.
No. You
Okay.
have nothing further for discussion. Maya does though, so
Okay.
that's good, yeah. Go ahead, Maya.
I'm in favor of this. I just want to remind everybody that back last spring, we actually, I guess maybe even last fall, we were talking about trying to, when we had such a historic amount of free cash available last year, we wanted to put aside a good chunk of it for one-time expenses and capital. And so I feel like this is a delayed fulfillment of that goal. I will say that, my goal is to make sure that a good chunk of our free cash is going to things like that. So but I'm open to a discussion about, how do we, what should we be paying free cash for the existing capital? How should we be allocating reserves, things like that. I really think we need to have a holistic discussion about how much money is there, with a rough estimate of how much we think we want to sort of earmark for the spring, with a healthy buffer. But I don't think we can wait until the spring to have a bigger conversation about how free cash should be allocated.
So you'd like it done before this town meeting or in the?
Yeah, I think at our next FinCom meeting, and I know the Budget Balancing Committee was trying to get together a meeting. I don't know if they ever picked a date. I think it would be a good idea to have a conversation about how do we think this money should be allocated. I think the original idea in moving capital to the fall was to give it the time it really deserves. It was always like an afterthought at Springtown meeting. Everybody got tired and we all just like voted to get out of the building more than voted on a particular project. But, you know, I think I'm uncomfortable with this idea of saying like, well, we can't really talk about how we should allocate free cash because we have to wait till the spring budget. I feel like the capital outlay now is really the continuation of last year's spring budget. And we left last year's spring town meeting with $11 million in free cash. And so I think we should talk about, you know, how should that money be allocated?
Okay. Thank you, Maya. A couple of things as I've sat at this table tonight and heard the discussions of capital outlay and some of the changes that happened to how we've talked about doing borrowing. And I guess I feel as if there's definitely a sentiment for preservation of capital and a discussion of how we want to put money towards reserves by not just the Finance Commission, but also the Board of Selectmen. Am I correct in that assessment to some degree?
Yeah, I think you are. I mean, the Board of Selectmen will have viewpoints. They won't, we, you know, I'll say.
Well,
yes.
I mean, but a member, but, okay, so I guess there seems to be a push to try and preserve as much free cash as possible. And what I gathered sitting at this table, and correct me if I heard wrong, is that there seemed to be a desire to have more discussion about what reserves to fund.
Correct.
Okay. This is one of the reserves that we've proposed.
Correct.
I guess what would be helpful, and maybe I can do some inquiring, is what other reserves, we're talking pension, OPEB. Are there other new reserves people are considering, or is it unclear at this point?
No,
I'm just trying to
again, I think
understand.
It's on the back of the S&P ratings. So
Okay.
again, that was, you know, increased reserve levels is a desire from the rating agency.
But it's just that general, so there isn't a
It's general.
discussion
So, yeah, so we're
of
looking
where.
at stabilization, we're looking at, you know,
So this would go towards,
this would be a reserve, so yes, this would be calculated in there.
and our stabilization, our general stabilization fund is already above what our policy is,
It is
right?
above policy, yes, but again.
But it's above
below-
policy, but it's below accepted?
Yes, not accepted, I mean, again, it's above policy, it's a good level, but compared to other higher rated communities.
Which
they
tend to be
have-
counties?
Yeah, but again, there's a
Okay.
handful of Massachusetts, there's a number of
Okay.
Massachusetts entities that are AAA as well. And they have, you know, reserves in the 10% or above range.
Okay.
But again, I'm looking, and I know Tony mentioned it at the selectmen's meeting, you know, the pension is, keep reiterating that, but just because it's.
No, it's
our-
important for us
It's
to
our largest
hear.
obligation out there that, you know,
Okay.
there is some concern about, because again, we're at all-time highs in the market, and can that continue? Yeah, it's continued for years.
Okay.
But if we do have a pullback of any sort, there's exposure there that's gonna then come around and say, okay, now your next 10 years, it's not just 4%, it's an 8% increase. So now you're looking at 7 million this year, 8 million, you know, we're at 10 million very quickly.
And, you know,
And so that's a big, and that's growing higher than our revenues right there, because our revenues are growing 2.5%, 3%.
yeah.
If our pension obligation's going 4 or 5, that could eat up most of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So there's a motion to fund this from $2 million from free cash. And it's been seconded. So if there isn't any further discussion, I will take a vote. Maya?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Ann?
Yeah.
Alan?
Yes.
Sarah? The chair votes yes.
That one.
That's unanimous.
I didn't realize you referred yourself to
Yes,
the third person.
You know how many times I've almost done that tonight and stopped myself, so I'm just getting a little tired. All right. So, now do we go back to Article 6, or was that our vote for
That was our
Article
vote
6?
for Article 6.
All right.
That takes care of it.
I will make corrections to the draft. Are you comfortable that I would forward this to the Board of Selectmen as well, again? Yes?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, I agree with that. We obviously voted to put this on the warrant. We did not get the position.
I forgot to mention that, I
Yeah,
apologize.
because we felt that there was more information that your commission wanted to put on the table. And it looks like you're ready to do that, and we meet next on the 28th, so it looks like there's an opportunity for us to get it on that agenda for consideration of our position, if you will.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time tonight, Bob, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Bob.
Bye, Bob.
Okay. I know it's getting late, guys, so we might be able to skip some of this stuff. Liaisons with the other committees, capital outlay, you feel good that you've been, you're good? Okay. Community preservation, is there anything that you'd like to report?
I don't have anything to report.
Okay.
See you next time.
Alan, do you have anything to report from the schools?
No, other than, they're beginning to think about FY '27 and long-term planning, so, which is good.
Okay.
So,
Thank you. BBC, my view, there hasn't been a meeting planned, so is there anything to report?
I don't believe there has. There was a survey that went out trying to figure out dates, but I'm realizing that I don't think I ever heard back.
Okay. MSBC?
Again, the building is complete. They're working on, the little issues that always come up, with systems and things like that to, punch list type of stuff. So things are going well.
Working group, are you still all doing your Wednesday or
Yeah,
trying to find meetings?
it's internal conversation
Okay.
about the schools and the
Good.
town. Obviously, as Mr. Slater mentioned, that the town is doing the same thing. We're looking at fiscal '27 and years beyond, so
Okay,
work is ongoing. I think as Maya mentioned, we are waiting for the budget balancing to get a date on the calendar to move forward the work. Again, it's going to be the revenue side of it, and I don't think the expense sides are going to be ready in the next few weeks. We're probably looking at a December timeframe for that.
okay. All right, thank you. Under the long-term strategy, I think I'm just gonna do, Eric drafted 3 different sheets, one on reserves, one on free cash, and one on
Math problem.
the math problem. I put those in the meeting folder for tonight. To be perfectly honest, he was I did not get to review them as much as I would have liked to present them this evening, so that will be my goal, and I will add that back to the October 30th. But if any of you want to look at them, they are in a folder that is titled Cheat Sheets in our Google Drive. So, that's what they are.
Okay.
Give them a different title, but go ahead.
Sorry, what did you give them?
Call them fact sheets.
Fact sheets, that's what it's under, actually, fact sheets. I call it cheat sheets, it's fact sheets, sorry.
Trying to be more diplomatic.
Well, And that is why he should speak and not me. All right, moving along, the long-term agenda, it's 8:10. We can look at that offline because that is something we can discuss. There has been a request to be a little more, to be more consistent year over year as to what we discuss in 1 month. So I'm gonna go back and look at our previous long-term agendas and this long-term agenda and try to make sure that, I think we have tried in the past to be consistent about that, but I want to make sure it's very clear, and then I will make sure everyone has it who needs to. And then Jeff and I did discuss, we were supposed to have the auditors come in on October 30th. That we've had a packed meeting tonight, October 30th. I think we're going to have some pretty good discussions. So we would like to move that to January. That will allow us to have a discussion about all of the audits, including this past fiscal year, correct?
Correct.
So I think that's a much more useful.
When did you want to put it?
In January?
So upon completion of our fiscal '25 audit, once we get that, we can end the schedule. If it's done before that, we try. I don't think it's going to be done
So
before
do
that.
both at the same time, basically.
Right.
It'll just be, yeah.
Okay.
It's the most recent information. Again, I hate kicking the ball down the field a little bit here, but that's going to give you the most recent update. 23, 24 at this point don't matter.
Right.
25 matters. So.
I agree there.
So that is the plan, to move them to January. So right now, I think that's the biggest move that we've done on the long-term agenda. I will look at it and send any questions out to you. If you look at it and want to add anything to it, please send me an email or call me, and then I can look at that. Is there any other topics for discussion that anybody would like to raise? Did we miss anything tonight that I should have thought of?
I think so.
So, action items and follow-up. I'm going to send the revised capital stabilization policy to the Board of Selectmen. Well, I'll make the corrections, I'll send it to you all for review. Once you all have reviewed it, I will send it to the Board of Selectmen as well. Let's see, what else am I supposed to do? I'll put it on to initiate a review of our policy on OPEB versus pension. So we'll make sure that we don't lose that in the conversation.
Just with that, there's another OPEB policy in there about allocating a portion so that it can be part of that as well.
Okay.
I think it's a,
In where? In our rate, in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
that we
little
have
dashboard
now?
We have an
Yeah.
OPEB policy.
Yes.
Then I think we'll put it on.
new positions, that's
Put
the
it
piece
on-
we should take a look at, because I don't understand what that is, and I don't think that's feasible. We can discuss that.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll put policies on our next agenda, or one of our next agendas.
Okay.
Just so that we look at it and get a clear plan. I'm gonna put on, just as a note, for town meeting in the spring to talk about that special education reserve and putting it in an interest-bearing account. I don't see any reason why that money shouldn't be earning interest, so, we'll talk about that. I'll just keep that on our radar. Deborah, do you have anything else that I am? Okay. All right.
Did you approve the meeting minutes? You didn't do that in the meeting, right?
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
We did.
Missed that. Must have been
Yeah.
sleeping.
I think you had a few
Why
people
we
in the
not?
room
Yeah,
asking you
okay,
questions,
good.
okay?
Alright.
We'll go with that, Jeff. All right, is there anything else anybody would like to say? Or you can say my favorite thing.
Motion to adjourn?
Second,
I will do a roll call vote. Maya?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Ann?
Yeah.
Alan?
yes.
And the chair votes yes, it's unanimous. Maya, thank you very much for joining us, we appreciate it.
Hi, thank you for being patient with my technical difficulties.